Historians recently uncovered an anti-porn propaganda film from 1962. It's called Pages of Death, and the Oregon Historical Society dug it up last week. So it's about 30 minutes long, and it starts out with a story of a 12-year-old girl who was murdered. It's a fictional story, but they talk about a 12-year-old girl who's murdered. Now, why did this happen? Well, apparently because a teenage boy in town started looking at porn. And then he murdered her. So let's watch the last 3 minutes of this propaganda film. This is very similar to like Reefer Madness, the anti-marijuana film. And this is going to be when they catch him, and then we'll come back and discuss.
I didn't mean to. I don't know why I did it. I don't know why.
I think we do, Paul.
Well, I hear you boys got the killer. Well, sir, you could have knocked me over with a feather when I heard who it was. Just goes to show you, don't it? You never can tell about these quiet kids. You never know what they're thinking.
You should know what they're thinking, Baker.
Me? How should I know?
Did Paul Halliday get those in here?
Could have got them 20 places in
Well,
town.
he told us he got them here.
Now look here. Don't you try to get me mixed up in this thing.
You mixed yourself in it up to your ears.
It's all in the business. I'm only trying to make a living.
Would you like to try telling Karen's father that?
Why doesn't Halliday look after his kid? I'm no nursemaid. I'm not supposed to check up on what these punks read.
No, Baker, you're just supposed to put within reach of any kid that can read smut that we wouldn't allow in the city jail because it's too strong for hardened criminals. You're just supposed to stand there with your hands in that cash register while these kids soak up poison that would turn the mind of a grown man. You just stand there and smile while these kids get the impression that sex is dirt and lust and love are the same thing, that it's okay to try perversion just for kicks.
I told you, kids can pick this stuff up 20 places in town.
That's just the point, Baker. You and all the others, you're contributing to a racket that's vicious enough to pervert an entire generation of American kids.
Now you lay off of me. You got your murderer.
Yeah, we got one of them.
That boy in the store and thousands like him could become the same kind of a criminal as the murderer of Karen Fleming. Karen Fleming's last name is fictitious, but there was a real Karen. When she was only 11, she was raped and murdered by a sex-mad youth. She actually wrote that composition you heard. You remember when she said, "I'm looking forward to a good future, but it will never come." Sex mania, the kind that feeds on printed filth, spoiled all that. This same tragedy could happen to another little girl, perhaps your little girl. Statistics show that sex crimes have increased in the same ratio as the obscene publication racket.
Oh my God, that's so sad. Oh my God, that was the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my life. People used to believe this stuff. They're saying that the guy who sold this kid a porn magazine is guilty for the murder that the kid committed because of the porn magazine. All the leaps of logic, none of it makes any sense. Obviously, porn is so bad that you see a tit in a magazine, you're bloodthirsty and you want to start stabbing people. No, quite the opposite. I know when I was first introduced to porn and started watching it and looking at it, life got a lot better. It was a lot more relaxing. The last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt anybody. The first thing I wanted to do was beat off. This is just unbelievably made up. And this is what happens. This is a culture of Puritanism. And, you know, they just make stuff up. And a lot of it is for religious reasons. They think that sex is bad. Sex is so bad in so many ways that you have to save it for the person that you love after you marry them. That's a quote from somebody a while ago. I don't want to take credit for it. But it's true. That's the way of thinking. It's so bad, it's so evil that you should only do it with this person who you supposedly love more than anybody else. Well, if it's so bad and so evil, why would you want to do it? It doesn't make any sense. But look at this, man, and this is what happens when your value system is twisted and backwards. And this was a time, this was from 1962, which wasn't that long ago when you think about it. And ponder this for a second. So this is what they viewed as incredibly immoral, porn magazines. Meanwhile, this was a time when we didn't even pass the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act yet. So, totally immoral to beat off or look at porn or any of that stuff. It'll lead to murder. That's totally made up. But what's moral is keeping black people as literal second-class citizens, treating them like shit, not giving them job opportunities, viewing them as subhuman, and just asserting your superiority. Oh, tell me again about how you guys are so moral and you nailed it. Racism was the system. It was the system. And they're like, that's cool. Beating off, not cool. Looking at naked people, not cool. Why are you fighting your nature? Your nature is what it is, man. Your nature, there's nothing, as long as you're not hurting anybody, and you're not, well, then there's no problem here. And the connection they make is absurd. In fact, the opposite is true. In societies where porn is more easily available, you have less sex crime. Why? You don't have people who are pent up, walking around all the time, angry and horny. There's only upsides to this.